Let's do it. Wow, music lady is here. All right.
It's time for leadership and laughs with Bill and Brian. And now here are your hosts, Bill like a Brian Bergie.
Hey now.
Doo-doo-doo-doo.
Big finish. Strong finish there, Brian. Good morning, my friend. Oh.
Oh, we're doing it again.
Hey. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you, Brian. What's happening out in Denver today?
Denver is beautiful today. We're having some very nice weather, and I told you this morning that I haven't shaved my head. Guys, everybody should know that I am a bald man by choice. I like to keep it smooth, and I'm slowly turning into Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation.
From Parks and Recreation, yes.
I'm becoming just a hairy Sasquatch at this point.
I think you look delicious. And by the way, I also am bald, but not by choice. It's more of a genetics thing. So if you're just joining us, welcome to episode 5. I want to thank you all for joining us again. Brian and I are excited to make this the best hour of your week. As always, Brian says, don't forget to call in today. We're going to be doing a lot of game shows. We're going to be having some open conversations about leadership. We're going to have some laughs with it. The more comments you put in, the more that you call, the more ratings we get, the higher we go. And eventually we will, take this thing international. But the irony is, Brian, we're already international.
We are international. We get callers. Last week, we had a caller from London, and we've had a call from Kurdistan over near Iraq.
That is correct. Yeah. So how are the ratings so far? Well, Podbean has not kicked us off the air yet. So the ratings are going very good. And the fact that most of you come back every week and listen is all that we're looking for.
Our ratings are very good for all of our press conference. That was my president.
That was phenomenal. The ratings are huge. They're huge. Huge. All right. Well, you all know we like to keep to a schedule here. We could just do witty banter for an hour, but we do want to make sure we have a little bit of structure. So we start out with this little thing that I like to call, Brian, leading off. He's coming in to the studio with current events and news stories to lead us off around everything we can learn about leadership. It's time for my second best friend in the world, Brian Voggy, to lead off.
Second best friend? I've moved up on the list. I love it.
Yeah, well, I had to remember that my internet friend is listening. So Joseph's on there.
Hi, Joseph. All right. So, yeah, we're going to lead off let's lead off with a laugh. Just real quick. First of all, today is Happy Seis de Mayo.
Seis de Mayo, yes.
Yeah, we had a very lovely Cinco de Mayo dinner last night at home, and made food and drinks to honor that culture. And the Battle of Puebla, by the way, that's what we're celebrating yesterday for Cinco de Mayo.
And I knew that you would know that because most of us as Americans just butcher the holiday and just decide to just eat tacos and drink margaritas and go, ugh! So the fact that you know what it's based on brings me cheer, my friend.
That does. It saves me a little bit from the fact that last night we ate tacos and drank.
Hello, Seven. Seven's joining us. Good afternoon from here. Where is here from, Seven? Make sure you type in where you're calling from. Go ahead, Brian. So get us started on
all right. So just something really funny that my brother Rob sent this to me. There's a guy on Twitter. His name is Todd Coleman, and just made a witty observation that went viral this week, and it goes to this. If this isn't leadership and a laugh, then nothing is. And so Todd Coleman says, my daughter had a Zoom class yesterday. So his young daughter is doing online school, as many of our children are doing around the
world right now. Yep.
And he says the teacher's internet went out.
Okay.
So what happened on Zoom is when the teacher's internet went out, one of the kids became the default host. And this kid muted everyone, pretended to teach the class, but then just said fart over and over until the teacher was able to join back.
Now, why do 240 and 50-year-old men find that one of the funniest stories ever? I have no idea.
There's some leadership right there.
Hey, who's in charge of the Zoom meeting? Me. Let me mute you all. I've got something to say.
It's just over and over.
Very good. Well, that is a good laugh. All right, keep us going. What else you got for us current event wise?
So, Pete, we mentioned Parks and Recreation. Are you familiar with Parks and Recreation? That's a sitcom here in the United States that went off the air about 5 years ago.
For those of you listening overseas, a sitcom is situational comedy. We have those here in America, probably in most countries, and this is one that is based on the Public Works group that works in Parks and Recreation in local government in the city, and it's a comedy.
Which is why I think you would definitely love it. It's a half-hour TV show, but anyway, it's gone off the air now for about 5 years, but it still has a huge internet following. And they did something pretty amazing last week. They actually had a reunion episode, and first of all, they had this kind of blew my mind because you know how Hollywood is. When a popular show goes off the air, first of all, there's always a demand for a reunion or a movie or something like that.
Right. We can look back to Seinfeld and Friends. We've got to get that. We've got to get, if you will, Beverly Hills 90210. We've got to get the show back together. Right. So everybody's clamoring for reunion shows. And
so when it, when they, first of all, they almost never happen. And then when they do, it's hard to get the entire cast back. You know, Full House did this and came back with something but didn't have the entire cast. And anyway, Parks and Rec had a reunion episode last Thursday and did a half-hour television special, all filmed in individual, like on Zoom, individual houses. And they were able to get the entire main cast back. Rashida Jones, Aziz Ansari, Nick Offerman, who plays Ron Swanson, Aubrey Plaza, Chris Pratt, even Paul Rudd, Rob Lowe, etc. And they were able to raise $2.8 million for Feeding America's COVID-19 response fund.
That's fantastic.
So it's a heartwarming story, but it's also it's kind of impressive.
It's a good leadership story because, again, when you think about Hollywood sometimes gets a bad rap. People don't always think about Hollywood as, doing good. I mean, they'll put themselves out there, but would you say $2.8 million for charity? That's fantastic.
$2.8 million between the, let's see, it was, they had some sponsors. I'm looking for it here. Oh, right. So contributions, by the way, are still being accepted if you wanted to Google that. But all donations up to $500,000 were matched by NBC Universal, the writers of the show, the producers, the cast, and their sponsors, State Farm and Subaru.
Wow. Very nice. So that's awesome, man. Another good story. I love. And again, that's good. They could have done it for themselves, but Feeding America, we're all dealing in different countries with the COVID-19 crisis in different ways. So that's huge. Good. All right. Give me another one. What do you got? Lead off with something else.
Let's do one more. This one goes to diversity and inclusion.
Which is nice.
Always a big part of leadership in your organization. And it's about a brand that I'm sure you'll be familiar with. Both Pete and I were born and raised in the state of Florida.
Fact.
And this brand is Land O'Lakes. Do you remember Land O'Lakes? Farmer-owned Land O'Lakes butter?
Yes, they're right there in Florida, right on I believe they're in the I-4 corridor area, somewhere between Tampa and Orlando is Land O'Lakes. So yes.
Right. So they made a decision recently to retool their brand and retool their I don't know if it's their logo. I guess it is their logo. And anyway, they had for almost 100 years, they had a logo that included a kneeling Native
Yeah,
American woman
that is correct.
offering up sticks of butter on their logo, and
That is correct.
I'm sure 100 years ago that was quaint and kitschy, but over the time we've kind of evolved as a culture. And the truth is, you know, uh, I was never offended by that logo as a person growing up in Florida. Never thought about it.
Or as part of the butter consuming population.
Oh, and I
When
consume a lot of butter.
When we choose our butter, we don't look around and go, hey, you know what? Land O'Lakes logo offends me. I will not. I will choose to go Fleischmann's. Maybe some people do. I don't know. I never thought about it.
Well, I didn't either. And the thing is, I'm not a Native American. So,
Correct.
as it turns out, more more than half of Native Americans survey say that they are in fact offended by Native mascots being used to they consider it racial stereotyping, inaccurate portrayals.
Yeah.
And so the brand went ahead and changed its logo after 100 years. However,
what is it? I'm excited. What is the new logo?
It's the same exact logo. They just removed the Native American one.
Someone just photoshopped over your
it's redone. It pretty much looks exactly the same. Which from a brand perspective, I
Right.
do marketing and communication in my day job, and from a brand perspective, that was what they should have done. It's time to move on from things like that, but. The new logo is very familiar looking, looks like the old logo. However, what I thought was interesting about the story is that the Land O'Lakes leadership basically just came out and said, yeah, we changed our logo because we want to focus on farmers. And they didn't own up to the fact that this was there. In a purpose-driven brand era, taking a stance like that can earn you some respect, even from consumers that don't agree with you. But they kind of just swept it under the rug, and I thought that was a miss for them.
Yeah, because there's always two sides to that story, Brian. One side is, you've missed the opportunity to sell yourself as being an inclusive organization. The other side is idiots like us who haven't thought about what the brand looks like. And then when someone tells me, hey, we've been using a kneeling Indian for the past 100 years and we're sorry and we apologize and now we're going to focus on farmers. And I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know you were a racist company. I guess I will stop buying your, but at first you now have given me a reason to be offended where in the past I wasn't. So again, Those conversations around the boardroom trying to decide what's right and what's wrong. Fascinating.
And we should just mention that Land O'Lakes is not a sponsor of the show.
One of the hundreds of companies that we mentioned that is not a sponsor. And we
neither do we think that Land O'Lakes is a racist company. Let's say that.
No, but I will say that we are purchasers of their butters and their products. So
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Salted, by the way, gotta go.
It is always salted butter. Nice job, my friend. Nice job. Thank you so much for leading us off. Getting, and you'll notice that when Brian leads us off on this show, we make it a point, Brian, not to do any local stories or news stories that have to do with COVID-19, that have to do with the coronavirus, that have to do with layoffs, because this is an hour again where we're sort of breaking away. We're having a little bit of fun and laughs. So we could take those stories every week and go deep into them, but that's not the kind of show this is, Brian. We're not doing that.
So we're not doing that? I have to scramble now to redo my over-under questions because they're all about COVID.
Let's go. But you know what we have to be concerned about, my friend? Sometimes leaders add things. Sometimes leaders make mistakes, Brian.
No.
And it's time for you to ask the world-famous leadership question.
They did what?
Man, they did what, buddy? I got some good ones today for you. And again, this is where we spend some time to our audience, just reminding you not to be stupid in your role as a leader or as A manager. We talk about, I've got 3 examples for you today, Brian, of companies, managers, and mostly the managers, not just the organizations. Like you said, 1 or 2 people can make a bad decision and it affects the entire organization, because as someone acts, so the organization has to respond. But we talk about things that happen here in the United States. Mostly we want to stick with companies over here that make mistakes, dumb things that managers do, and lessons you can take away from it so that you can become a better leader, so that in your organization, nobody is ever going to say,
"They did what?"
Yeah, that's just, gosh, we should, why don't we just brand that?
Yeah.
That should be great.
They did what?
And we can always get some callers during this. If you'd like to share your points of view on this, or you want to share, your stories about this, you can. So let's start here. Hey, I've got one from Birmingham, Alabama.
I've heard about it.
Let's not leave our local organizations out. Wayne Farms, based here in Alabama. That truly was. That was one of the managers at Wayne Farms. They're one of the nation's largest poultry producers. They're going to pay $175,000 to settle a disability discrimination. So again, as leaders, you all need to know what the laws and the rules are around the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and hostile work environment and all of these rules and regulations. So here's the story, Brian. Let me know what you think about this. The EEOC is charged that Wayne Farms violated the rights of a class of workers in their Decatur, Alabama facilities. Now, they had an attendance policy, Brian, that capped the number of allowable absences regardless of whether the absence was due to a disability. Okay. So, hey, here at this organization, you can miss 10 days of work, 15 days, whatever it is. But no matter what happens after that, you're fired. I don't care if you ran over your mother-in-law with your car, you got to be out for 3 days. I don't care if you pulled over to the side of the road to help somebody feel better about that. I don't care if you gave CPR and you had to call in sick or whatever. No. So they had a maximum number of days, no matter if it was due to a disability or not.
Okay.
Employees who provided medical documentation or excuses for their disability-related absences were fired upon reaching their maximum number of absences. Now, on the surface, Brian, it sounds like a good business practice because it has that 4-letter word that we all love that starts with the letter F.
Wait, fart?
No, we already covered that one. This would be fair.
Oh, good. Okay. This is a family show, so I'm glad I didn't say the other one.
Fair. Because, Brian, this is fair for every employee. Every employee, it's fair. Because here's the number of allowances. Doesn't matter if you've got a disability or not or whatever. Again, the EEOC came on out and said, no, you cannot do that. They settled the suit, $175,000 to the employee. The company has to rewrite their attendance policy. They got to provide the copy of the policy to everybody. They got to do ADA training to its human resource staffs. It's just a simple thing that I want you to think about in terms of your leadership skill. When people start asking for what this word reasonable accommodation, Brian, you've got to know what reasonable accommodation is as a leader. So I've got one more for you, Brian. Let's stay in the whole idea of disability discrimination. And this one, again, is going to make you ask the question of yourself.
They did what?
Yeah. Do you remember Spencer Gifts, buddy?
What's that?
Do you remember Spencer Gifts in the shopping malls?
Yes, we still have Spencer Gifts. I know this because I have a high school and a middle school child.
Yes. And by the way, let me just thank all our listeners who are on right now. You know, we've got a lot of new names on here. Music Lady, John's on today, Buglet Terry, High Def, New to meet us here. Thank you all for kind of listening and sticking with us. NAA Rebecca's here as well. So thank you. Spencer Gifts, Brian, when I was a young teenager in the shopping malls of the United States, if you wanted to go in there, that's where you got your poster of Farrah Fawcett to hang on your walls in the 80s.
Yes. I had that picture.
I know. That's where you got your lava lamps. That's where you got, and I don't know why fart has become a common theme of the show, but that's where you got your whoopee cushions. I mean, it was just a place
where I'm still thinking about Farrah Fawcett.
I know. She
had the nicest smile.
the nicest personality. Yeah. Bonus points for the bell, my friend. Who was Farrah Fawcett married to?
Farrah Fawcett was married to Lee Majors.
Give yourself a bell. Who is also known as?
He was the Bionic Man, or the $6 million
man. Yes, give yourself a bell for that. And who was the Bionic Woman? What is the name of the actress who was the Bionic Woman?
The Bionic Woman was I know this. Don't by
the way, I don't know.
Hold
so
on.
if any of our listeners,
Lindsay
Buckingham.
No, not Lindsay Buckingham.
Lindsay Buckingham.
Somebody text it.
Somebody text it or type it in, and we'll send you a free Leadership and Laughs T-shirt if you give us the name of the Bionic Woman.
Jamie
Foxx. Jamie Foxx?
No. Jamie Lindsay.
Jamie was
Lindsay Wagner. Lindsay Wagner.
Give that man his third T-shirt. They're on the way, Joseph. Okay, so going back to Spencer Gifts, they're going to pay $90,000. Listen to this, Brian. This is going to blow your mind. Thank you, Bug, that you got it right as well. There's an employee who worked for Spencer Gifts. This is a store manager, Brian, a store manager in Hickory, North Carolina.
Okay.
And,
sure.
This employee was diagnosed with a condition called Marfan syndrome, which is a genetic disorder of the body's connective tissue. So she was aware of this condition. She knew what she had, and she went to her employer, Spencer Gifts, and says, I'm going to get surgery, and I need some recovery time. Spencer Gifts says, okay, go ahead, get your surgery. So for 1 month, between December 7th and January 8th, so about 31 days, she requested a number of accommodations from Spencer Gifts when she came back to work. Can I please work while using an assistive device? Like, can you get me a cane or a walker or crutches that'll help me be at work more often? Also, can you put me on light duty just for a little bit? I don't want to stand and all this because of my knee and my surgery and all of that. Spencer Gifts, now this employee had been working there for 4 years. Spencer Gifts says, no, we refuse to provide you with any accommodation. And so, you know what? You're fired on January 14th.
You have got to be kidding.
No, you're fired. You're gone. And so again, she sued, got the EEOC involved. It violates the ADA. You got to do a reasonable accommodation. Now Spencer's got to do annual. Think of the cost involved. Now Spencer has to do annual training, add this to all of its employees, and add this policy and add this stuff. So it's just going to get up there. So Terry says boo on that. Thanks to Buglet for saying Abraham Lincoln had Marfan syndrome. I did not. Gosh, our listeners are very smart. But here's the deal, y'all. If, especially in America, but even in your country where you work, learn about disability reasonable accommodations. Reasonable accommodations. There is nothing that Spencer could have invested in a $40 pair of crutches and had her in the back doing paperwork for 2 weeks, and then everything works out. Now they're paying $90,000, hundreds of thousands more in annual training, Brian, and plus they're being mentioned on our show as someone who doesn't know good stuff. So kind of a challenge there. All right. We got one more, Brian. Let's you know what? Nothing says I don't know what I'm doing as a leader than religious discrimination. So let's give one more story about religious discrimination, which will make you as the listener look at this supervisor and ask this question.
They did what?
AT&T, my friend, I have finally cut the cord. Let me just mention to you, I have cut the cord. Religious discrimination. Brian, this comes into play, and this could be another whole hour show on just, it wouldn't be Leadership and Laughs. It would be called Reasonable Accommodations and Discrimination Lessons. Do you know what a hijab or a hijab is? Am I saying that right? Hijab.
Yes.
So
that is religious garb. Worn by those in the Muslim faith.
That is correct. Normally over your head. So when we worked at Disney, this became a thing as well. We had a lot of discussions. Real quick, let me go through the story, and then we'll talk about it. Company is Versant Supply Chain and AT&T. They failed to grant reasonable accommodations based on a company's dress code. Companies tend to hide behind their dress code, y'all. Hey, our dress code says this, so you have to abide by it. So what this Versant and AT&T company did was they enforced policies that prohibit employees from wearing any head coverings, except, Brian, for knit caps. So you can wear a knit cap. So right away, now we're doing it doesn't sound like it's fair and equal.
Wait,
and they
what?
failed knit caps.
Why?
Because I guess maybe to keep your ears warm in the warehouse. I don't know. But they failed to consider exceptions for employees who wear head coverings for religious reasons. So they required employees who worked in the warehouse to remove their hijabs before work. And if an employee refused to remove their hijab, they would not allow the person to work in the warehouse. Here we go. This is in Memphis, 2-year consent decree, $150,000. They've got to now change their look policy that allow people to wear religious head coverings unless doing so would create an undue hardship. You know, there's also safety reasons. You always hear things about dress code policies and things like that where you can't wear gold chains, you can't wear earrings because you're too close to the machines, things might fall off, you might get in. So there's always safety reasons, but it didn't sound like there was anything in here that was safety related. And plus, since they were letting other people wear knit caps, to say that you can't wear a hijab is just...
That's interesting, Pete. You know, it's you said this was a small company, right? A small little mom and pop. What was the name of the company?
It's a supply chain company and AT&T.
AT&T. So
this is from...
I'm being sarcastic.
This is from the consent decree just came out April 27th of 2020. So this just happened. This just happened a couple weeks ago.
I don't know. I just feel like, you know, you and I are, we're just a couple of guys, you know, we do what we do, but I just have a feeling that we would have known better. Like how is that?
I mean, right. Yeah, I know. I don't understand. I mean, can you imagine going into the warehouse and saying, everybody who's wearing crosses or crucifixes around your neck, please remove them. You can wear a gold chain, but you can't wear that. Hey, everybody, you're wearing, you can wear a baseball cap, you can wear this, but you can't wear. So again, you've obviously got a lack of training for the management to understand the difference between a dress code and religious accommodations. And this is widespread, Brian. This, like I said, it's happened a lot at Disney because Disney stands behind its Disney look policy and talks about the show. And we've talked about the show on this before. So the question always was, Brian, well, let's say that you're in Frontierland in the Magic Kingdom and everybody's dressed like cowboys and things like that. If you were wearing a head covering or a hijab of some kind on your head, that doesn't fit the Frontierland show. So you're not allowed to wear those because it distracts from the show, and we can prove that people are not buying merchandise. And I'm not sure we can even prove that anymore because who's to say that that's, you know, that there's all kinds of, you know, things like that. So just if you have here's my lesson, Brian. If you have a Disney look policy, if you have a dress policy or a corporate policy, take a look and make sure that nothing is causing any type of discrimination against any type of religion. In fact, we had a big thing here in Alabama about a year ago. I think our state law said that you had to remove your head coverings for your driver's license picture. Right. And again, there were a lot of people who came in from different faiths and are saying, I'd never take this off unless so I have to leave it on. And I have to go back and look at what the suit ended up saying. I think that the state won. I think the state said that you do have to take it off for your driver's license picture, and we don't allow any type of head coverings. And they went back to some type of safety issue and sort of things like that for our first responders and public safety and all that. So, but this affects every line of work, Brian, really does.
It does. And I'm you know what?
You are disappointed.
No, I'm bumfuzzled.
Bumfuzzled.
I'm bumfuzzled.
Can do that. Hey, John Freeze brings up a good point, Brian, before we get too far into the next segment. He says, I wonder what we're going to learn about reasonable accommodation for folks who have compromised immune systems during this COVID-19 crisis. Where I work, John, we are still all working remotely. We're about to head back to the workplace probably in a couple weeks on a sort of tiered structure. And we're already having leadership team discussions around what does these reasonable accommodations look like? If the law says 6 feet between cubicles, but somebody says, I don't feel safe being in the same room because I have a higher immune system, I need to work from home. It's not safe for me to come back. Well, we're making everybody wear a mask. Well, I want a mask and plexiglass. I want both that are going to be in there. In fact, I don't want. So, I mean, you're exactly right. As we begin, John, to kind of look at this post-COVID-19 workplace accommodations, the human resource community, the HR community is going to have to come together and marry these policies with the laws. Because, Brian, are you all? Do most of your people work remotely, Brian, or do you have a corporate office where you are?
We have a corporate office in Orlando, Florida, but most people are working remotely at this time.
So it's actually good to actually be thinking about all these different things. I think I have. Is it pronounced Priya? Who decided to call in, or Priya? How do I pronounce that?
It's Priya. It's Priya.
Hi, Priya.
Thank you for joining us. Where are you calling from today?
I am from India.
And did you just have a show a little earlier today that you were doing a live show as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Before some time, I was doing my podcasting.
Oh, good. Well, good. Well, tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are on accommodations in this post-virus world. What are you seeing where you are about people wanting to go back to work and what the laws and regulations and policies are?
Actually, I don't have much idea about it, but you are talking about some the things which is going on right now.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you know that the situation which we are facing right now, it's too hazardous for the people, for the for the people, for the Indian people, and also all of the people. So you know that actually COVID-19, COVID-19 are affecting a lot of people, and economical conditions as well, because you know that due to COVID-19, our we can say that our economical condition got decreased, and our we can say that all the business, all the all the works got like spoiled. So I think that
Yes.
this is very very yeah, this is very very bad for the people as well, because in India, in India, the situation is under control by the government.
Yeah.
And we always, yeah, will always try to follow the rules and regulations by the government. We know we must follow all the rules and regulations by the government. And you know that a lot of people, I think that, and I'm not talking about everybody, but some of the people are wandering here and there without any sense. And we know that COVID-19, it's too it's too serious to it's too serious, so we can follow, we must follow all the rules and regulations by the government. And when I talk about the death case, I think that a death case will be increasing day by day, and it's a kind of so bad situation which we are facing right now.
Well,
And
Priya, what does your government say right now about face coverings or face masks when people are out in public? Do they have to wear them? Is it recommended? Is it mandatory? What's happening in India right now around where you are in face coverings?
yeah, you know that in India, if you talk about the gloves and a mask, government told that we must follow whenever we go outside like banks and something like that. We must wear gloves, we must wear mask as well, because that if any police find you without any mask, without any gloves, then he will catch you, he got catch you, and he will, I think that he will get you punished for that. So it is very we can say that a strict rule. We are, it's a kind of very strict rule told by the government that you must wear gloves
It's such an interesting cultural
whenever you
difference,
go
Priya,
outside.
because over here in the United States, we do. we do
Just a little time delay there.
just a little time delay there. I'm sorry. But we do have some rules and regulations around masks and gloves. But there are actually some law enforcement officials who may be choosing not to enforce it in different states. But what I hear you saying is it's different. So we really appreciate you, sharing your thoughts with that. And we'd like to always invite you to kind of call in again and let us know what's happening overseas. That's fantastic. All right, Brian.
Thank you, Priya.
That's such a good call. We love when our people call from overseas. Let us know what's happening, but we got to also be careful because we don't want to forget one of the most important parts of leadership and laughs. Brian, I think we have a game show.
What's it called, Pete?
From Television City in Hollywood, this is Over and Under. All right. This is where we play along, Brian. This is where the audience gets to play along as well.
The audience does get to play along. This is a game show that we have here on Leadership and Laughs, and it's everybody's favorite leadership statistics game show. Here's how this is going to work. I'm going to present Pete with a few interesting and timely statistics, and he's going to have to guess. He's going to have to decide if the actual number is over or under the number I give him. So I have kept these hidden from Pete. He's going to be hearing these for the first time.
They can type in their answers. They can play along. They can call if they want to play along. They can type in their answers. And you have to try to beat me. Now, keep in mind, I am currently, I believe, 3 for 12. So where are my math majors? What is that?
In Major League Baseball, that would be a decent batting average.
That's 25. That's 250. That's 25%. Solid. I'm doing great. Let's see if I can get at least 2 out of 3 today, Brian. Let's go.
All right. So the theme for today is going to be 80%.
Okay.
What is the 80% rule, Pete? Do you know the 80% rule?
I'm going to go with that's the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, perhaps, maybe?
Perhaps. All of these statistics are going to be right around, I'm not going to give you the answers.
Okay.
And so there's no cheating on Leadership and Laughs. We do want to encourage you to play along, as Pete said. So feel free to text in your answers or give us a call and play along live. All right, Pete, today's over-under has to do with recruiting.
Okay.
All right. So, as Priya mentioned, the coronavirus pandemic has, caused all of our lives to be very different. And it's actually pushed online purchasing, Pete, to new levels that we weren't anticipating. I don't think anybody was anticipating for years to come. So consumers are embracing both delivery for their food and other items, and something that they call buy online, pick up in store, or BOPIS.
Dude, give it an acronym. If it's got an acronym, I love it. BOPIS. Buy online, pick up in store.
If that didn't have that acronym, I would have to give it to it because I like to say BOPIS.
Yeah. Hey, baby, are you going to pick up the groceries today? Nah, I'm going to BOPIS.
I'm going to BOPIS. I'm going to buy online, pick up in store. And consumers are doing the delivery and the BOPIS as solutions to social distancing because we can't always be in the grocery store. So as it turns out, there has been, in fact, a 62% year-over-year increase in BOPIS. So here we go, over under. And then we're going to get to the recruiting. This first one is actually about grocery stores.
Dude, you are the king of bearing the lead. You're like, let's go. Let me give you the backstory.
Yeah, got to have the backstory.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Over or under 70% of people surveyed by Global Web Index said that they are avoiding crowded places because of the COVID-19 outbreak.
It's got okay. Listen, I'm not even going to overthink this, my friend, and I'm going to go to I'm going to go to the audience for the answer. You're telling me that is it over or under 70% of people? Is this a worldwide study or is this a United States study? People who are afraid to go, probably U.S. based.
Probably U.S. based. Well, it's Global Web Index. I don't know. It could be international. The So how many people, percentage-wise, said they're avoiding crowded places because of the COVID-19 outbreak? Is it over or under 70%?
I'm going to say if it's a global survey, here's my reasoning. If it's just American, I would say under, because we're so stupid and we're like, we don't care, we'll go out, we'll shop, if we get it, we get it. But because it is a global survey, I'm going to say it's over, Brian. It's over. More than 70% of people think that they have changed their behavior patterns when it and are afraid to go out. Over is the answer.
I'm sorry. No, it's actually under 61%. 61% of people surveyed said that they're actually avoiding crowded. And you know, I have to say, I'm surprised that number was lower than 70%.
Yeah, because you keep hearing people who are staying in and doing all that. So that only 61% of people are afraid to go out.
That's right. And it was there's been a 62% year over year increase in BOPIS and curbside pickup from last year. So people are doing a lot more. However, only 61% said that they're avoiding crowded places. Now,
what's that acronym again? One more time.
BOPIS. BOPIS.
Say it again.
BOPIS.
Yeah. Okay.
I love it. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna clue you in on a little something here, listeners. We have a show doc, and that wasn't at all one of my over-unders. I thought it was supposed to be all about recruiting, and I started talking about BOPIS because that was going to be one of my leading off stories. But anyway, all right, now we're going to get to recruiting. That was a bonus. That was a bonus over-under.
Let the record show we are accepting applications for a show producer.
We do need a show producer
who chooses things. Yes. All right. Go ahead.
Who will not get paid.
Yes, go ahead. Number two.
But
I need an intern. The amount of work you could learn by being an intern on this 1 hour live podcast be huge.
All right. So
free t-shirt.
All right. Telework. All right. Yes. Let's talk about recruiting and telework. Telework is a new term for working at home via video and audio. It's become common workplace protocol during our COVID-19 pandemic. And it has prompted talent acquisition teams or recruiters to adapt their recruiting processes for a remote world. So JobVite, have you heard of JobVite? They're actually
yes, I have. It's a company that helps people recruit and find jobs. Yep.
They published a research report in April, at the end of April, just about a week ago, that found that video, social media, and phone calls are increasingly being used in the recruiting process. So the recruiting process itself is changing.
Okay.
So their team surveyed hundreds and hundreds of recruiters from industries including technology, healthcare, finance, insurance, professional services, etc.
Okay.
And so here's your first over/under question. That other one was just a bonus.
Okay, we got to go faster then. All right, go.
Here we go. What percentage of these recruiting professionals said they have adapted their processes to work remotely? Over or under 80%?
It's under, and here's why. When you talk about recruiters, they are so used to being we're going to job fairs, we're going to college career fairs, we're out and about. We might be online a little bit here and there, but our recruiting processes are in your face. So when you say the percentage of them who have changed their practices, is that the to be
percentage of recruiting professionals who said they have adapted their processes to work remotely?
No, it's much less than 80% because they just haven't gotten there yet. Less.
Oh, it's actually over. Can you believe it?
Why do I play this game? This is awful.
Can you believe the answer is 84%? Who said 84%? Give them a bell. If you said over, you get a bell.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, yeah.
Uh,
Even in these times of adversity, recruiters and leadership teams are committed to continuing to build their teams remotely. So,
well, you got to
right.
think about it for a second. Just let me go real quick.
Yeah.
We do a lot of career fairs and job fairs and all that. Think about the colleges and universities in America, all the seniors who are graduating. They normally bring in all the companies into the gym or into the student center. They have the table set up, Brian, and you get the free things and you shake hands and do all that and come. What is that going to look like? Are we allowed to have those tables? Are we allowed to shake people's hands when they come to college fairs? Are they allowed? And with no one hired. So again, your point of not just the recruiting part changing, the actual interviewing part, all of that may kind of change as well. All right, go ahead. Give me number 2.
Well, and I want to just say once again that Pete has not seen these questions, but
Right.
that was a fantastic
Segue
transition to our next question.
Do
All
it.
right, everybody get ready. What percentage of surveyed recruiters said that they have increased their social media posting on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to advertise their jobs? Is it over or under 80%?
It's over 80%. It's over. I just valid. Michael says over. We've got some new listeners on. Some of them are saying over. High Def says over. Yeah, virtual career fairs. We're all going over, Brian. Let's do it.
Oh, man. It's actually, the answer is only 46%. Only 46% of recruiters said that they have increased social media posting on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to advertise jobs.
So the caveat, maybe there's no jobs right now. I mean, there's no jobs to advertise, maybe. So
that
they don't have
could be.
They've got fewer openings and more candidates, so maybe we don't have to have a heavy presence. That's interesting.
Okay. It is, and a slightly higher amount, 58%, said that they have used social media to promote their employer's brand and to connect with talent, but not to actually post the job listings.
Okay, so I'm 0 for 2, Brian. I've got to get one. Let's go. Save me. Right. Number 3. Let's do it.
Last one, and this one goes to your segue before. Here we go.
Hold on. I know the reason why I haven't been doing good. Hang on. All right. Go.
There we go. Okay. Here we go.
I'm zoned in now.
You're vibing with this music.
Yes. Bring it. Bring number 3.
All right. Last one. What percentage of recruiters said they now use video instead of telephone calls to conduct interviews? So, they would have interviewed candidates by telephone in the past, but now they're using video. They're using Zoom or Facebook.
I've got a number in my head already, and I know what it is. So go.
All right. So I'll say, is it over or under 81%?
Okay, this is a trick question. I'm going with under because I said 75% in my head. So I was going with 75%. So no matter what you came in with, I was thinking about 3/4. So Terry says over, Joseph says under, High Def says under. Come on.
Let me read it again. Make sure you got your answer. What percentage of recruiters said they now use video instead of telephone calls to conduct interviews? Is it over or under 81%? Are you sticking with under?
Under, because that's still a good number. Let's go!
What did you say? What did you say in your head the number was?
75%.
It's actually 80. Slightly under.
It was you gave us a 1% range to guess on the answer?
Well, I told you everything was about 80%. Answer is 80%. A large percent of the respondents said they increasingly use video for interviews. And video is also widely used, by the way, to make the onboarding process and online meetings run smoothly.
Listen, we're going to see a lot of changes in recruiting and hiring in HR. We're going to see a lot more video interviews. We're going to see a lot more use of this technology, Brian, rather than you have to fly out here for the interview. We've got to see you in person, especially over the next 12 to 18 months. So thanks to My T Sports Podcast. They just joined us. Glad to have you. So, Brian, that was over under. What was I for this week?
You were 1 for
3.
3.
So that puts me at 5 for 15.
And then we had a little bit of a bonus question
yeah.
about Bopus.
We are absolutely not counting that one. So, all right. Well, that was actually fun. Oh no!
What's that music?
What in the world? Am I walking down Main Street, USA, in the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World?
We're at the end of Main Street, Pete, by the hub.
Oh, I see the Walt Disney statue. He's holding Mickey's hands.
That's right. They're partners, you know.
Oh, they're partners in excellence. Oh, Michael Glaze. Michael Glaze is walking down Main Street. He's bopping with his kids. He decides to get a coffee, maybe.
Oh, I can smell the chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, there's a stage show going on.
Right, is that now. The Kids of the Kingdom? I'm going to get a hot dog.
You're dancing. Okay.
Sorry, we could do that for an hour.
If you walk down Main Street, USA right now, you would see nothing because it's closed. All right, so you all know me and Brian. Brian and I, to use proper grammar, I guess, worked at Walt Disney World for combined over 25 years. So we take this opportunity to share with you a concept called the Daily Disney, Brian, the Daily Disney, where we share a Disney tip from the Disney company that we learned about leadership, and you can apply it to your organization. Why do we call it the Daily Disney? We don't know because it's a weekly show, and we haven't figured that. We could call it the Weekly Walt.
The Weekly Walt.
Sidebar.
Right, I gotta go back to my show doc now.
Yes, exactly. Yes, good to be here. All right, today the past 4 weeks we've talked about Disney's concepts of safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency. Brian, today we're going to go into Disney's 7 guest service guidelines, and I want you to think about your organization, your company. If you have direct reports or individual contributors or employees of any kind, Brian, what are your customer service standards? What are your non-negotiables? Now, what we do, I go out and do a lot of training for organizations. And when I talk about this, Brian, and I say, what are your non-negotiables as far as customer service or customer experience? They'll say things like, oh, we just want our employees to just be nice. As long as people are, the customer is always right, we'll focus on that. And none of that is enough to give an employee the basic non-negotiable. Yeah, but what does be nice look like? What does put the customer first look like? What does all that look like? So Disney created what they call, Brian, the 7 guest service guidelines. This is for the parks and resorts. It may not apply to every segment of the Disney company, but we're going to go over some of these with you, and we're going to laugh about them because some of them are really silly that you think that we have to put this in writing. But the Disney company believes it's so important you put it in writing and you have your leaders train it and all of that. So here's tip number 1, Brian. Are you ready?
I'm ready for tip number 1.
Tip number 1 is make eye contact and smile.
Oh, you mean like direct eye contact, like stare at them and smile creepily?
Can you imagine sitting in a training class like we used to do in traditions and go, okay, everybody, let's talk about make eye contact and smile. We're going to be talking about this in depth for the next 30 minutes. Someone in the back's going to raise their hand and go, I got it. So what you're saying is we should make eye contact and then we should smile. As Brian and I are watching each other on Zoom right now, he's making the creepy eye contact. Let's talk about this, Brian, for a second. Adults make eye contact between 30% and 60% of the time in an average conversation, according to quantified impressions, but people should be making eye contact 60% to 70% of the time to create an emotional connection. This has become more of a struggle at Disney now that we do the whole smartphones and we're all looking at our Disney apps and we're all looking at and so Disney is really training people from day one. We taught this. If you make eye contact with somebody, Brian, in a healthy environment and you're just doing that, it's going to help with return on investment. It's going to help people who buy things in the merchandise shops. If you're just walking around with your eyes down, it can be a tool for influencing others, Brian. According to this study, people who are high status tend to look longer at people compared to others who look down a little bit. So there is not only is making eye contact help you create emotional connections with people, it also helps the bottom line, Brian. It also helps you perhaps make more money in your organization.
That's interesting, Pete. We have somebody on that the Mighty Sports podcast asked, how many teeth in a smile? And I think that's an international type question. And of course, Walt Disney World has lots of international guests. And does more teeth or less teeth help?
You know what makes this even worse is I wanted to call him My T. Hello, My T. It's Mighty. So yeah, Michael says it makes better influence. And it's funny, we sort of joke about it tongue in cheek, no pun intended, but there are cultural differences in how long you can make eye contact and what people think. And in some cultures, again, eye contact for too long, Brian, is considered rude. In some Eastern cultures, some Caribbean cultures, what in the world is happening in Brian's studio? Are you opening a soda in your refrigerator? Yes, you are. And some Caribbean cultures reading other people's eyes. It says here, according to a 2013 study, Brian, Asians are more likely than Westerners to regard a person who makes eye contact as angry or unapproachable. And this other study, Brian, says if you hold eye contact for more than 10 seconds, it can seem aggressive or just plain creepy.
Yeah, I picture Jack Nicholson at in The Shining.
Right, just staring at you. So Disney realizes, though, it's not just make eye contact, it's make eye contact and smile. And they teach it doesn't matter if you're at the front desk of a Disney resort, if you're in the toll plaza, if you're driving the trams, if you're doing quick service food, if all you're doing is taking trays all day and turning them around and handing them to people at a quick service restaurant, you need to make sure that you're looking up at the person smiling, because Disney knows there's an emotional connection with that. In fact, there's this phrase called smile marketing, and smile marketing is used by companies who think about organizations that use smiles. You know, Amazon, Brian, actually uses a smile in its logo.
That's right. And it's from A to Z.
From A to Z. Did you know what the number one emoticon or symbol that's used in texting and email these days?
What?
It's the smiley face. It's the smiley face.
It's not the poop.
No, it's not the poop and the heart hug. So Michael says the smile. So yes, so I want you to think about this with your core customers. What are your non-negotiable customer service expectations? And for you to tell your employees or your coworkers, I expect you to make eye contact. I totally expect you to make eye contact and to smile. That can be a non-negotiable. That can be a customer service standard. And that's what Disney teaches its employees. That's what you can actually teach your employees as well. Forrest Gump created that right. Absolutely. So yeah, Brian, what do you think?
I think Buddy the Elf said it the best. She said, I like smiling. Smiling's my favorite.
Smiling's you got to have a good elf reference in there. All right, well, we're coming up on a full 60 minutes, buddy, the end of the show. And so it's time for our final segment, which is called, what? Did you know?
Did you know?
That's again, ESPN is not a sponsor, as I said, da-da-da.
Yeah, so for today's Did You Know, we're actually going to go back to the Land O'Lakes story. Are you ready for this?
Bring it.
We got fact-checked live on the air. Rob from Minnesota, he is my flesh and blood younger brother. Rob says, fact check, Land O'Lakes is actually a Minnesota-based company, originally a co-op of farmers. And
are you telling me that Land O'Lakes is not based in Land O'Lakes, Florida?
Not based in Florida.
But there is a city in Florida named Land O'Lakes, right?
Land O'Lakes, Florida. That's what I always assumed.
But that's not where the butter is from?
Nope. He actually sent me, you can look it up on Wikipedia. Land O'Lakes Incorporated is a member-owned agricultural cooperative based in Minneapolis-St. Paul suburb of Arden Hills, Minnesota.
He said what? he said what? The wrong information? Gosh, we're never going to get sponsors now. Hey, that's a good Did You Know for today, or is there another Did You Know? Or is that it?
No, that was it.
Okay, we'll go with that one. Hey, Brian, we had 47 total listeners today. We're so thankful. If you don't mind sharing the show, telling people about leadership and laughs, we like to have a good time every Wednesday morning here on the Podbean app. We had some new listeners today. Vedette Q, the incredible Raj came in today. Music Lady was here. Mighty Sports. May have to go check out Mighty. I don't know what Mighty Sports is podcasting about these days. You talk about a tough thing. Facts. He'll be back next week. Good. We'll have you call in, Mighty T. Brian?
Pete.
It's been a fun day, buddy. I enjoyed the show.
It has.
Yeah.
We've done 5 of these podcasts now, and I think we can. I think we should keep going.
We're going to keep going. Tell your friends. Join us next week, everybody. So from Birmingham, Alabama.
And from Denver, Colorado, up here in the Mile High.
That's Pete and Brian, and we'll see you next week on Leadership and Laughs.
With Pete and Brian.